The Kundika Upanishad, presented by Swayam Prakash Sharma. We begin the Upanishad with an invocation. Om, may my limbs, my speech, my pran, my eyes, my ears, my vitality, and all my senses always remain strong. All that is in existence, that is Brahm of the Upanishads. May I never deny Brahm. May Brahm never deny me. May there never be denial of one another. At least, let there be no denial of Brahm from me. May all the virtues that are proclaimed in the Upanishads, may all those virtues be in me who am devoted to the Atma. May all those virtues always reside in me. Om Shanti 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 Om. The Kundika Upanishad is part of the Sama Veda and it is one of the Sanyasa Upanishads. In the Muktika list of 108 Upanishads to be studied for salvation, this Upanishad figures at serial number 75 of that list. The Upanishad is about sannyas, describing the procedure and time when sannyas is to be taken, the duties and activities of a sannyasi, and about salvation and how the stage of salvation is to be reached. Source material for this upload has been taken from the English translation of the Upanishad by Professor A. Ramanathan as published by the Theosophical Publishing House, Chennai. The Upanishad. A person should study the scriptures during the period of studentship in which he should be without blemish and in which he should devote himself to the service of the teacher. After successful completion of the period of studentship, the brahmachari student should, with the permission of the teacher, marry a suitable girl and live the life of a householder. After he has completed his life as a householder, at the end of such period, he shall light the sacred fire for renunciation bravely and perform a sacrifice that lasts a day and a night, in which Brahma, etc., are the deities. He should then divide his property equitably among his children and, giving up all pleasures of the senses, he shall journey along sacred places as a vanprasth or a forest dweller. He shall subsist only on air or on air and water, or when in dire need, with the addition of approved bulbous roots and fruits. He shall find all worldly life in his own person alone, within himself alone. Remembering his past comforts, he shall not allow his tears to fall on the ground. But then certain questions arise, such as how can a man who is still in the company of his wife be said to have renounced worldly life? How is one who has the appellation of an ascetic or a sannyasi, who is merely called a sannyasi, be said to have actually renounced? Therefore, first of all, a person should purify himself by renouncing all the fruit of his deeds, which he should do through self control. Only after doing so should he take to renunciation. One reaches the stage of forest life of a vanaprasth after having maintained the sacred fire as a householder. He then goes to lead the forest life as a vanaprasth with self control, accompanied by his wife, as though he were a person attached to her. Now it is the turn of his wife to question him. She asks him, "Dear sir, Why do you undergo the life of a mendicant monk in vain, having given up the pleasures and happiness of worldly life? What is that impending misery, the thought of which forces you to abandon the great pleasures of worldly life? And this is the reply that he gives to his wife. My dear, I am terrified at the thought of the miserable life in the womb of another mother, and also at the thought of the miseries of heat and cold. That is why I wish to enter the cave shelter of renunciation, which is the means of achieving the painless, transcendent state of Brahm. And having renounced the sacred fire of a householder, a person shall never return to it even mentally. That is, he shall not even recite the mantra pertaining to it in his mind. For I, that is the mantra pertaining to the sacred fire. For that I is incompatible with renunciation, and it becomes extinct. And becoming extinct, it shall be merged into the oncoming knowledge of Brahm. The ascetic should repeat the mantras pertaining to self realization. He should get himself consecrated, after which he shall wear ochre colored garment. He shall remove all the hair from his body, except those in his armpits and on his private parts. Then, with his right hand raised, abandoning the path of worldly life, he shall set out as a mendicant monk. He shall not have a fixed abode, always being on the move. He shall live on alms that he has begged from people, and he shall deeply ponder over the Vedantic texts. He shall deeply ponder over the Upanishads and meditate on the unity of his identity with that of the transcendent Brahm. He shall possess pure knowledge for the protection of all beings. Now we describe what possessions a mendicant monk may have and how he should conduct himself. A mendicant monk can have a water pot, he can have an alms or a begging bowl, he can have a sling to carry his personal effects, he can have sandals for his feet, since he has to travel long distances over the three worlds. He can have a patched garment to enable him to withstand the heat and the cold. He can have a loincloth to cover his private parts, a purifying ring of holy grass, a bath towel, and an upper garment. Other than these, the ascetic shall give up all else. The ascetic, the sannyasi, shall give up everything else. He shall sleep on the sandy bed of a river, or he shall sleep outside a temple. He shall not subject his body either to too much pleasure or to too much pain. He should use only pure water for bathing, for drinking, and for cleansing. He shall not be pleased with any praise that may come his way, nor shall he curse others when he is censured or criticized by them. His alms or his begging bowl shall be a cup made of leaves, and the material for washing is prescribed to be freshly dug earth. In this way, provided with the means of living, the ascetic sannyasi shall, with his senses subdued, always recite philosophical mantras. The wise ascetic shall realize in his mind the unity of the identity of the individual self, of the Jivatma with the universal self, with the Paramatma, which is the meaning of Om. He shall realize that the individual self, the Jivatma, and the universal self, the Paramatma, are in fact one. From Brahm, first of all, arose ether. From ether came the air. From air came fire. From fire came water. And finally, from water came earth. So, Brahm is thus the prime cause of all these primary elements. It is to that very prime cause of all the primary elements that I resort to in utter reverence. I resort to the ageless, I resort to the immortal, and I resort to the indestructible Brahm. In me, who am the ocean of pure, unalloyed bliss, the waves of the universe rise and fall many times due to the wind of the fanciful sport of Maya, of illusion that blows. Just as the sky is not attached to the clouds in the sky, in the same way, I am not attached to my body. That being the case, then how can I have the characteristics of the body during any of the stages of consciousness? The stage of waking, the stage of dreaming sleep, or the stage of dreamless sound and deep sleep. Like ether, I am far beyond imagination. I am as different from the body, as different from my own body, as the sun is different from the objects it illuminates, from the objects it lightens up. I am always changeless, just like the unchangeable Mount Meru. And like the ocean, I am limitless. I am Narayan. I am the destroyer of the demon Narak. I am Shiv, the destroyer of the three aerial cities. I am the Purush. I am the Supreme Lord. I am the indivisible consciousness. I am the witness of all. I am without superior. I have no superior. I am devoid of both I-ness or egotism and mineness or possessiveness. By the practice of yoga, the ascetic sanyasi shall bring together the two vital airs, pran and apan, within the body. He shall place the palms of the two hands at the perineum, the part of the body between the genital organ and the anus, and gently bite the tip of the tongue, which he should thrust out of his mouth to the extent of a grain of barley. Similarly, his eyes should be opened to the extent of a black gram seed. His feet should rest firmly on the ground. He shall focus his attention on all the five senses, controlling them so that they stop doing their respective functions. He does not allow his ears to hear, his eyes to see, his nose to smell, his skin to feel, his tongue to taste. In this way, he accomplishes the union of the pran and the apan vital airs. Therefore, the vital air that passes through the kundalini and the sushumna, that vital air gets dissolved in the sahasra chakra or the 1,000-petaled crown at the top of the head. Then the vision, the mind, the vital air, and the fire of the body reach the seat of Shiv and get dissolved. That is Brahm. That is the transcendent Brahm. That Brahm has to be realized by the practice of yoga, which is further facilitated by the practice of yoga that a person has acquired in his previous births. This is how a person realizes the indestructible qualified Brahm. With the help of the external and internal organs, the knowledge of the qualified Brahm called effulgence, reaching the heart and supported by the capability of the vital layer to proceed upward, one goes through the Sushumna Nadi and piercing the top of the skull at the top of the body, leaving the body in this way. The ascetic sannyasi realizes the indestructible Brahm. Those sages who attain the transcendent stage in this way, through the passage in the skull at the top of their body, at the top of their head, they never return to worldly life, for they have realized both the lower and the higher Brahm. The attributes of the objects that are seen do not affect the onlooker who is different from them. In the same way, the attributes of a householder do not affect him who remains non-aligned without any mental modifications, just as a lamp suffers no change by the objects revealed by it. Even though I, the non-aligned sage, even though I roll in water or on the ground, I am not touched or affected by their attributes in any way, just as the ether in the pot is not affected by the attributes of the pot in any way. I am free from the effect of activities and changes. I am devoid of form and parts. I am without fancies. I have no fancy. I am eternal. I am without any support because I need no support and I am devoid of duality. I am the form of all beings. I am the all. I am beyond everything and I am without a second. There is no other like me. I am the one indivisible knowledge and I am the compact bliss of the self. I am the compact bliss of the Atma. Seeing the self, seeing the Atma everywhere, considering and knowing the Atma as being without a second, enjoying the bliss of the Atma, I remain without reflections. Walking or standing or sitting or lying down or otherwise, the wise sage always delights in the Atma, and delighting in the Atma, he lives as he wishes, fulfilling all his duties, and on leaving the world, he will attain final liberation. Yes, on leaving the world, he will attain final liberation. This is the Upanishad. Yes, this is the Upanishad. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om.